Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined today by Mr. Denny Carter. As always, we will have a special guest in 20 to 30 minutes' time. You may know him by the name of Eric Froton. We know him as Eric Froton. He's a college football, the Froto, and the karaoke master.
Yes,
really throw. He can also do very high leg kicks. He's an interesting man. He's a college football expert. He's a draft expert. He's going to talk some of his favorite like day 2 and 3 running back and receiver prospects that might not necessarily be scheme or like landing spot dependent. Like a lot of those guys on like day 2 are like, can't end up with the Texans. Got to end up with the team that has an actual smart coach. And he's going to talk. Well, the Texans do have a smart coach now. We like D'Amico Ryans a lot, but like a team that's not going to be land somewhere where like, they don't ever throw the ball on this team.
That's right. Or like with 15 caveats for the landing spot. If he lands on a team that throws it more than they run it and has 2 injured starting receivers and does this and this, then he's good.
As long as he ends up on a team that's not Arthur Smith calling 12 passes a game, he'll be really good.
That's happening this year.
And try to talk to us some day and 2-3 prospects who their skill will shine through regardless. But first, Denny, you've told me that you have a bone to pick, a very, very old man bone to pick about something with our National Basketball Association. What is it, Denny?
I do. And, I hope Commissioner Silver is listening. I know he is a huge fan of the show. I want to say, as an East Coaster who is NBA curious, is how I would describe myself. I want to believe, I want to watch, but I can't watch, Adam, because the game starts at 10:30. The good games start at 10:30. I don't care about the Sixers. I don't care about this boring East Coast basketball. No one cares about that. Celtics are boring. Come on, let's get the West Coast stuff a little earlier for the East Coast dads and moms who have to go to bed. We got to go to bed. We can't stay up till 2 a.m. to watch Jokic. This Jokic character from my perspective, he's right. It's an AI generated player. No one's seen him on the East Coast. There's no way to prove that he exists. All he does is lead the NBA and EPA or whatever they call it in the NBA, and he wins.
It's called per,
and he wins MVPs. But we've never seen him on the East Coast. Let's see one game with this guy, please.
Yeah, he's not real. He's not even. He's from Eastern European country that frankly doesn't exist. So I can't remember which one he's from. So hopefully it's not one that has some like controversies. Like I think he's.
I'm guessing it's one with a long and tortured history.
It's not Slovenia. That's where Luka is from. Anyways, I don't remember where Jokic is from.
Look at another thing, Pat. This Kings Warriors series. All the cool kids are talking about Kings Warriors, right? That's all anybody wants to watch. The Kings are in the playoffs for the first time since 2006, since Mike Bibby. I saw you posted a picture of Mike Bibby the other day.
A picture of Mike Bibby.
I desperately want to watch this, but guess what? I can't. I'm not going to see 1 second of that series because every tip time is 10:30.
Producer Adam reminds us that Jokic is from Serbia, which is a basketball power. So. He's got some real basketball bona fides. That is, if he is real. I do believe he may be an AI. Like you said, normally I would agree with you on this, Denny. Actually, I wouldn't have not used to agree with you because I've been a night owl my entire adult life. This 4th child, finally the 4th, is what's kind of put a damper on it. So I can't stay up to watch any of these games either, and I'm kind of upset about it. I want to see Cat, as he's known, get 5 fouls in the first 10 minutes of the game and then sit out for 32 minutes. But to be frank, I don't know if I really agree with what you're selling because I know what you were doing this morning, Denny. And you were watching replays on the Golf Channel, of course, owned by Comcast. It's a great channel.
It is.
But
I love it.
You couldn't stay up to watch the NBA because you had to wake up to watch a golf replay. Is this true?
Yeah. Well, look, I didn't know we were airing our dirty laundry here, but yes, I was watching the playoff replay between Jordan Spieth and Matt Fitzpatrick.
Because it's a playoff, it's okay.
Because look, yesterday was Greek Easter, folks. It was Orthodox Easter, as many of you may know, and there was no time to watch the film as far as golf goes. So I had to grind some film early this morning, aka watch it while I ate hummus and chips.
Well, and I think, Denny, not to take people too far behind the curtain, you have informed me that you are wrecked, though. Personally wrecked.
In so many words.
Yeah.
Yes, actually.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to power through and do this podcast and, just complain about not being able to stay up. So you can apparently drink, but you couldn't stay up, huh? Interesting. Curious.
Well, look, when you stop drinking at 6 o'clock in the evening, you think
That's
that,
true.
okay, I think I've done the right thing, the responsible thing. But then when you wake up and you're still not feeling great, you wonder, when do I have to stop drinking? And then the answer comes to you, don't drink. And that's,
you didn't drink 420 ounces of water.
No, Pat, I did. I actually drank an unbelievable amount of water and 3 full Gatorades.
Well, that's who knows what they're putting in these woke beers that are getting you all.
I'm suing Gatorade.
Yeah, suing Gatorade. We are moving on to talk about football. We're in a little lean period. Again, we're just waiting for the draft. We're waiting for Eric Froton's Super Bowl, April 27th, 29th in Kansas City. Yeah. Kansas City is in Missouri. It's not in Kansas. Word to the wise. There is a Kansas City, Kansas that's a suburb that makes it far more confusing. But Kansas City as it's known. But we have a little NFL news before that, beginning with Jalen Hurts becoming now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL by average annual value. And Denny, we weren't quite sure how to frame this, like talking about Hurts. But so first, I was to say, the premise of my question was to be, so Jalen Hurts is clearly the best quarterback in the NFC, right? There's not even really a premise there. He just flatly is the best quarterback in the NFC at this point. So I'm just wondering, who is the second best quarterback in the NFC? I'm sorry, I didn't actually even prepare you for this question, but who is the second best quarterback in the NFC? Because it's Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, who is the second best quarterback in the NFC right now?
It's probably Dak.
It has to be Dak, I think.
And then Kirk Cousins.
It's Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith. I'm just go through all the stars: Brock Purdy, Desmond Ridder, ? Derek Carr, rookie on the Panthers, God knows who on the Bucks, supposedly Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields could ascend, Jordan Love could ascend, Jared Goff. Don't think he'll be ascending. Sam Howell, Daniel Jones. This is I don't know if I've ever seen a conference down this bad at quarterback.
Yeah, Hurts is by far, clearly. I guess Kyler, in theory, could be number 3.
Kyler is projectable to be the best, but it's still just all projectable.
Oh, well, no, but that's not.
Is Kyler the third best, or is it Kirk Cousins?
Man, that is a tough question, and I am torn. I will take no pleasure in saying either of these guys, honestly. Probably Kyler because of the rushing. Basically the difference between Kyler and Jalen Hurts is that Hurts is big.
Okay, come on, man.
And I'm sorry. You don't draft little guys in the first round. Just don't do it. Which is why no one should be drafting Bryce Young at number 1. Come on.
Bryce Young, born to play football, shouldn't be drafted, apparently.
At all.
Yeah, at all. He should just be all 257 picks should just pass him by. If you were just playing for 2023, there's 1-year contracts in the entire league. You've got a good overall roster. Would you rather have Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields?
Now that's a good. Projectable. We just talked about projectable. Justin Fields could be like Jalen Hurts ish.
But this is just 2023, though. That's the thing. We're not projecting whole careers here. Just 2023. You're trying to win the Super Bowl.
Oh man, trying to win the. I've never
1-year contracts for everybody.
I've never even thought about trying to win. I just want to maximize points. Oh man. I'll actually go with Fields. I actually think that his ceiling is just so unbelievable, and we know what the Kirk Cousins ceiling is, and unless he hits that, you're not going anywhere. Even if he does hit that, you're still not going anywhere.
And I feel like we found with a lot of dual threats, they don't take as long to develop as people always seem to assume. Like if they're good football players, like if they were good passers in college, Justin Fields is a pretty good passer in college. Jalen Hurts is an underrated passer in college. It turns out it's not like Justin Fields needs like 3 more years to develop or whatever. Like he could just take another massive step forward in 2023. And I think I would rather just bet on Kirk Cousins. It's like even if you give this guy the best roster in the league, I mean, what are you really getting here?
You're getting a wild card loss, is what you're getting.
Yeah, you are. And I mean, maybe a divisional round loss. You somehow get the bye. There's only one bye now. There's no way you're getting. Yeah, you're getting a wild card loss. That's right.
That's it. You signed up. Congratulations, Vikings. You've signed up this year for yet another wild card loss.
Yet another wild card loss. So yeah, it is nuts. I mean, we kind of talked about this near the end of the playoffs, though. With the NFC and Jalen Hurts, it kind of dawned on everyone that he was just like clearly the best quarterback in the NFC. I mean, now that Aaron Rodgers is leaving the NFC, there's literally no there's not even any competition. And Aaron Rodgers in his diminished 2023 state or 2022 state wasn't competition. But Rodgers, if he had stayed, would have been the only one where I feel like you could even like make a case. Like if Aaron Rodgers bounces back this year, he's the best quarterback in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, just to bring some numbers into it, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes were the only guys with the better adjusted EPA per play than Hurts last year. Like it's like, and Hurts was miles above any other NFC quarterback. The rushing plays into that, of course, but I mean, he's among the elite of the elite. One thing I have to say about Hurts in this monster deal is that now the Eagles' window on taking advantage of a quarterback on a rookie deal has now shut, right? That doesn't mean they're going to be bad, but here's what it could mean for fantasy. And look, it's April, so we're looking for stuff. We're looking for stuff to talk about. I'm going to give you something.
Sounds like you found it
to think about. The Eagles may not be able to afford the kind of defense that provides Jalen Hurts with 100% positive game script and often limits him to 3/4 of play in a game because the team is so far ahead.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
What I'm saying is we may get actual unleashed Jalen Hurts this year.
But fantasy supernova Jalen Hurts is what you're saying. And
yeah,
we've seen the recipe, by the way, when your quarterback is no longer on a rookie deal and is being paid as like one of the 3 or 4 best players in the league, like with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes last year. You just don't have any receivers. And it has never worked for anyone until it worked for the Chiefs last year. And
it's amazing.
Not sure it's repeatable for anyone else.
I mean, it's actually a formula that the Chiefs are using.
It is. They've gone 0 receiver, which, curious, Denny, all these years I've told receivers matter so much more than running backs.
No, but here's what Kansas City's doing. It's 0. They're going 0 running back. They're going 0 receiver. Who are they getting? They're going
0 tight end soon. And Travis Kelce, a year or 2 left max at this level.
It just honestly, Mahomes is so good that obviously it just doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Anybody can be catching passes.
There is 0 difference between good and bad Mahomes things.
There's 0 difference between good and bad receivers when you're talking about Mahomes.
That was the joke we were going for. Actually, there is this 0 difference between good and bad receivers when Patrick Mahomes is delivering them the ball. So Jalen Hurts in the AFC, this would be a much tougher debate. Far and away the best quarterback in the NFC. That's because like some of the competition in the NFC is the aforementioned Brock Purdy, a second-year player who was the final pick of the draft, who was recovering from reconstructive elbow surgery, or so we thought. He's now saying he's avoided Tommy John surgery, greatly enhancing his odds to start week 1, Denny. I was kind of telling you off the air, sometimes in baseball, the guy's like, yeah, I avoided Tommy John. We're good to go. Elbow never going to hurt again. And then they suffer a setback like 2 months later. But this does seem genuinely different for Brock Purdy. It's also just different stresses on the elbow. It's a different kind of injury for him, the way he suffered it. I don't know if that really matters. But they seem genuinely optimistic he'll be throwing before camp. And he'll be ready for week 1. And just like, what does this mean for Trey Lance's 49ers future? And really, does he even have one? It's kind of, which, again, sorry if you're listening to the show and you've heard us talk about this a lot, but the same stuff keeps coming up.
Look, I think this is a new and important twist on the 49ers quarterback situation because, as of February and March, really, there were reports and the general idea was, hey, Brock Purdy will be back. It won't be week 1. It might not be week 4. It might be the second half of the season. So, it could be a lot of Darnold. It could be Lance. They could be splitting, starting duties. Who knows? So now we have this update, and I do think it's an important one, even though if this follows the baseball example, Purdy could be not in the clear completely. I think it increases the chances that Trey Lance is not a 49er this coming season. I think there are enough teams out there who would make a deal, who would acquire Trey Lance for the potential. And I think that I know it's funny to say, but like I think Sam Darnold is fine for that Shanahan system. I think that he can slot in and start 2, 3, 4 games if he has to until Purdy gets right. But the team is very clearly out on Trey Lance.
I think people might take umbrage with like both these premises, like, hey, the 49ers are just totally out on Trey Lance, or B, that there would be a market for him. But just to the first point on the 49ers being out on Lance, it's just they basically have come as close to coming out and saying it as you do in football. You never actually just say it unless you're Sean McVay talking about Jared Goff. He did just come out and say it. He came out and said it. That was the one time ever. But the 49ers, they just like the body. It's like it's classic. Like you turn on cable news and you bring in a body language expert.
Oh yeah.
Like why does John Lynch look like he's about to deliver the word? He's like telling an entire family of 9 people they all have cancer when he talks about Trey Lance. Like that seems bad. Normally the body language would be better from a GM talking about the quarterback. And look, you go.
We're 3 weeks removed from Kyle Shanahan saying that Sam Darnold and Trey Lance would split first team reps this offseason. Okay, let's not forget that. That's an important development here. Yeah. Okay, they're out on Trey Lance. Trey Lance, I think, will be playing for another team, and not maybe, that is good for fantasy. That is good. Get this guy under center for somebody.
It is, and so you might be wondering, like, how if like the quarterback guru Kyle Shanahan has announced the league that he's just done with Trey Lance. Basically, why would anyone want him? It's because going back to this conversation about just the NFC. I mean, this quarterback situation is just dire. There are so many teams that need more upside at quarterback, and it's a huge red flag that like the quarterback guru himself, Kyle Shanahan, after like 2 games, and Trey Lance like, I'm out. He's like, can't do it. Like, that is a bad sign.
He has seen enough. He's seen enough,
but someone can offer a 2nd and 4th round pick for this guy. Still, he's still very young, still very projectable. That's the problem with Trey Lance, is it's always just been projectable. But Sam Darnold, like, say what you will about Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold did not sign in free agency thinking there was any chance he was going to be the number 3 quarterback. Like, he just didn't do that.
Right.
He did not sign with the 49ers thinking like, I might be the number 3 if I'm here to compete for the number 2 job. Like, because there were lots of places he could have gone for a guaranteed number 2 job. I just feel like there's absolutely no way he would have signed thinking that he was not at least the number 2 quarterback.
Sam Darnold could start for at least 3 teams.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about that. I reflexively said, yeah.
Wait, no, look, he's starting for the Bucks. All right.
Is he?
Yeah.
What? Have we already seen? Wasn't he on the same team as Baker? I guess he was a lot better than Baker last year.
He's starting. Yeah, he's starting for Atlanta.
That's true.
Maybe that's it. 2. Sorry.
I took a drink of coffee at the exact wrong moment there.
Pat almost sprayed coffee all over his microphone, folks.
Thankfully, it made it down, though. It made it down. But anyways, he didn't sign thinking he's going to be the number 2. That just didn't happen. For whatever reason, it didn't work with Trey Lance in San Francisco. Maybe because he's barely played football since he was in high school. But he will be moving on. The 49ers are moving on. Real quick, we're getting close to Froton.
Yeah. 2
quick things to check on here. ESPN's John Keim, very plugged-in Commanders reporter, seems to think the Commanders are going with Sam Howell in 2023. Denny, you think this is a misdirection ploy? You still think it's another man by the name of Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah, I blame you, actually.
Poisoning the well around Sam Howell.
I was in on the Howell train. Okay. And the train straight to Howell, and I'm sorry. And then
I like it. Straight to Howell. It's where we sent him.
You pointed out that Jacoby Brissett was good last year for the Browns, and you pointed out that Ron Rivera likes his veterans, and that is true. And
I also pointed out that Sam Howell's not good.
And you also said that, yes. And here's the thing: is I've looked into your claim that Jacoby Brissett was good last season.
Hold on, don't make people think I was like talking up Jacoby Brissett or whatever.
You said that he was the best AFC quarterback, correct?
Yeah, yes, exactly. I don't know. We've all discussed that he was better than we would have expected last year.
Well,
especially
I'm trying to promote some content, Pat. So I have some EPA surprises, expected points added. Surprises coming up on our website on Tuesday, and part of that is how good the Browns were with Jacoby Brissett under center last year. Way better than with Deshaun Watson. And I do think that in the end, I don't think Howe can wrestle this job away from Brissett. I think that even if the Commanders want to, even if the Commanders desperately want to rig the game, we've seen this before. I think eventually Ron Rivera's, who's going to be fighting for his job, is going to say, oh no, we're going with the slightly more boring veteran.
That's the thing. Ron Rivera is, especially a new ownership group coming in, he's fighting for his coaching life. And I somehow had not realized just how bad Ron Rivera's overall resume was until I did my coach rankings this year, where he's won more than he's at a winning percentage better than 500 3 times in 12 NFL seasons. He's won a playoff game 2 of those 12 years. Wow. 1 year is when they went 7-8-1 and beat Ryan Lindley and the Cardinals in the playoffs. He just has not had any success as an NFL coach, basically.
He seems like a great guy. Really,
that's the thing. The reason he keeps his job is because he's an amazing leader, and especially at a place like Washington that's had zero leadership, he keeps his job because he is a good defensive coach and is a very, very good leader. But the team's underachieve, and on offense, as we know, it's just a disaster, ongoing disaster. He made the playoffs 3 times in 9 years with Cam Newton.
That's not a lot. Not a lot.
That's unacceptable.
On February 28th, Ron Rivera said, Sam Howell is, quote, not our starter. And on March 8th, Ron Rivera said, if a veteran quarterback beats out Sam Howell for the week 1 starting job, quote, so be it.
Wow. So, all right.
Come on, man. Sam Howell's not starting for this team.
He just came out and said it too. Wow. All right. Real quick, Froton has been ever ready in the background, but you had a chosen Anderson stat. You wanted to share chosen, formerly known as Robbie.
Yeah.
Now on the Miami Dolphins, coming off a calamitous 2022.
There's nothing to see here because Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle take up all of the offensive oxygen. Waddle and Hill combined for 55% of Miami's targets and 68% of the team's air yards last season. Trent Sherfield, now of the Bills, was third on the Dolphins with an 11% target share and a 10% air yard share. That came out to about 3 targets and 30 air yards, folks, per game. So there's just nothing there for anybody else. So congratulations to Chosen Anderson for being on a team where he will never see the ball.
I would like to be chosen by Mike McDaniel, though. That would be good.
I mean,
I would feel chosen, to be honest.
Look, if there's an injury to one of these guys, maybe the chosen one comes in. We'll see.
I would feel delivered. I would feel saved. Or some of the other concepts they taught you in high school, Denny.
Well, that's another podcast.
That's another podcast. And we're going to be back with the second half of this podcast and Eric Froton talking day 2 and 3 running back and receiver prospects who will not be entirely scheme dependent right after this. Every season is draft season. Get your Rotoworld Draft Guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts. They're packed with profiles, rankings, and projections. Order today and get all 3 Rotoworld Draft Guides for the price of 2. Plus, use promo code BERRY to save an extra 20% off at checkout. That is promo code BERRY to save an extra 20% off at checkout. And don't forget, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players in your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It is available in your app store today. We're back with Denny, and we're back with, once I click this button, Eric Froton.
Gentlemen, I got to say, Denny, a little disappointed here. I know it's bad form to come over here and correct the hosts. However, with Sam
Highway to Howell right there for you, Denny. A little disappointed.
Froton, I'm embarrassed.
It all comes back to music with Froton, who, of course, had one of the indelible moments of both Denny and Eric's life in Canton, Ohio last August, when they frankly burned the Roadhouse down with a duet of David Bowie and Queen's Under Pressure.
That's correct. Fair but accurate.
It was a great moment, and I appreciate Eric, unrelentingly pressuring me to get up on that stage and do it, because it ended up okay. It's not something that I usually do, and I want to tell you, Eric, I tried to do that song with my son, my 10-year-old son, at a recent karaoke night, and he refused. And he said, I can't live up to Eric Froton.
Oh, wow.
Denny, you did the Freddie Mercury part, right?
No.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but Eric killed that part.
See, Eric has big Freddie Mercury energy. He can pull that off.
Yeah.
Denny, I'm not sure. Eric's a front man, is what I'm saying. He's a front man.
I think that's a fair statement. Just stepping out, much like Joe Jackson, another favorite of Denny's, up on the stage. And we're looking to hopefully, at the Fantasy Football Expo again this year, be able to regale the crowd once again with our melodic voices, Denny. I hope that happens again this year.
Well, you're trying to get a special event set up in Canton Square, are you not?
I'm working the back channels as we speak. I did get some information on Canton Square. There is there's a decibel level that cannot be broached after a certain time. And I think it's safe to say, with myself and Denny up there on the stage, we would have broken it. So we may have to bring that to an indoor venue, unfortunately.
I am, whatever happens here, I am going to require 2.5 hard seltzers to be able to
2.75 just to be safe. Let's shake up the sleepy Midwestern town. Let's shake up this podcast, because the draft 10 days away. Hard to believe. Talked the draft last Thursday with Connor Rogers. Going to talk the draft this Thursday with Danny Kelly. We had to talk with Eric Froton at least once, maybe more, Eric.
Hey, I'm always available for both of you, the Galaxy brains.
That's true. The brains. Froton's always down for some brain expansion. We're going to have to get brain expansion-y with it, because you wanted to go off the board a little. You said you didn't want to do just the blue chip, big name prospects. You wanted to talk some day 2 or 3 people. Yeah. So let's get right to who is a day 2 or 3 receiver or running back. And it doesn't have to necessarily fit our premise of a guy who's scheme dependent, or like landing spot, not landing spot dependent. Could just be someone you really, really like. Who's the first day or 2, 3 guy you want to talk about?
I want to talk about a guy that I had in my top 10 before the National Scouting Combine. I was the only person, and I looked at every single set of rankings I could find. I did. I couldn't find anybody that had this particular gentleman in their top 10. Now he's the trendy breakout sleeper. My man, Starvin' Marvin Mims from Oklahoma, the all-time Texas single-season leading high school receiver in the nation, not just Texas, in the whole entire nation. Nobody has ever had more receiving yards in a single season than Marvin Mims. And unfortunately, when it came to him going to Oklahoma under Lincoln Riley's system there with the Sooners, he came out and had a legitimate breakout year 1 with 700+ yards. But then in year 2, he pretty much stayed at that production level, and it caused some people to be a little bit down on him. But it isn't so much him. We'll get into, as you talked about, scheme dependent. And that's something that happened to Jordan Addison this year, where he went to USC under Lincoln Riley, where, hey, they spread the ball around a little bit. It doesn't matter that you have the Heisman Trophy winner, Caleb Williams, there distributing the ball, who's as good as you're going to get at the quarterback position. The way that he does things is there's going to be a spread of sorts. So that was what affected Mims in year 2 at Oklahoma, where he wasn't that true alpha that the dominator rating folks really want to see. Now with Mims, though, it's all about what he did with his opportunities. 16.2% of his receptions since 2021 went for 40 or more yards. Number 1 in the nation in that stat. Number 2 was Jalen Hyatt, another 2023 receiver. But he was running,
plays, folks.
Yep, absolutely. But the thing is with Hyatt, he's running bare naked down the on slot, flies that you just don't see in the NFL. You're not going to see slot flies. Stop it. So I feel like what Mims does certainly projects a lot better than what you see from Hyatt. And as the draft process kind of go along, you see everybody kind of coming along to where old Froton was pre-combine, which is Marvin Mims is better than Jalen Hyatt, okay? Everybody needs to understand that. If it weren't for Cedric Tillman getting injured, you wouldn't even know who Jalen Hyatt is. That's another big favorite of mine, Cedric Tillman. But then with Mims, too, 13.5 yards per target since 2021 in the last 2 years. Again, number one in the FBS. He got more targets this year at Oklahoma with Jeff Levy, offensive coordinator, coming in from Ole Miss the previous season, where he picks a guy and you get some more volume. Even so, 87 targets is what we got out of Mims. He had the least targets of any 1,000-yard receiver in the entire country. So it just goes to show what he's able to do with those options. And he wins downfield. He ran a 4.38 40. His athletic profile was sensational, 95th percentile. Everything that you look at from Mims, be it when the ball's in the air, be it when he has the ball in his hands, he can do it. I think he's my 5 right now, and I think he's being drastically undervalued.
Can I say something that I know about Marvin Mims is that he has the misfortune maybe of being the analytics darling of this draft class, and part of the reason here is that as an 18-year-old true freshman, he had a yards per route run of over 4. That was good for a top 10 mark of any FBS wide receiver since 2015. So I mean, like outrageously efficient on his targets, like you just said, Eric. So I'm very excited. I'm getting him in a lot of best ball drafts right now for free because he has not been drafted. I think that changes when he's drafted.
Eric, there's no chance he sneaks into the first round, right?
I'm personally, as you know, I'm kind of on the gambling front here when it comes to the marketplaces. The market opened at 4.5 wide receivers to be taken in round 1. That has since dipped to 3.5. And I think you're probably still even looking under because you got the big 3 with JSN, Quentin Johnson, you have Addison, possibly Zay Flowers. Those are really the 4 with maybe Hyatt squeaking in. I think Hyatt's out, but I'm still a little bit under on that. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say you don't see Mims, and he's more of a mid-day 2 selection, mid-round 2 selection.
Well, final thing on Mims. I know in 2021, Oklahoma kind of had like quarterback chaos. I mean, 2022 was like Dylan Gabriel even good? Like, that was the Oklahoma quarterback, right? Am I making that up?
Big adjustment for Mr. Gabriel going from UCF to the Power 5 level. He's very small, so he took a beating back there. Missed a little bit of time. Obviously, that's going to hurt your for the wide receiver, his production. But no, Dylan Gabriel does not have an NFL caliber arm. He would be on the very low end.
Eric Froton has disappeared, and we've lost Eric Froton. And real quick, when I said quarterback chaos at Oklahoma, part of that included Caleb Williams, who came in and was instantly amazing in 2021. But what was the name of the man that Caleb Williams replaced in 2021, Eric, who transferred then last year to, I believe, South Carolina? Who was
that was Spencer Rattler. Yes, he was the 2019 QB1. And to prove just what a volatile market the Devi college campus to Canton space is, 2 years ago, I did a campus to Canton league right before the season started. And that's only 2 years. The top 5 quarterbacks were in order: Spencer Rattler, DJ Uiagalelei, your boy Sam Howell, Malik Willis, and Matt Corral. Those are the top 5 QBs 2 years ago. The 6th one taken was Bryce Young, but it goes to show just how volatile that QB market can be.
See, yeah, I was pointing out when you briefly dropped out, Eric, when I said quarterback chaos in 2021, I didn't mean to say it was a bad thing that Caleb Williams was briefly Marvin Mims' quarterback.
Not a bad thing at all. In fact, it was more than briefly because Spencer Rattler, he was replaced in week 3.
Wasn't it like the K-State game? Isn't that where the revolution took out?
Oh, no. It was the Red River game. It was against Texas. Okay. Finally, they had to say, all right, enough, Spencer Rattler, enough. In comes Caleb Williams, leads him to victory, and the rest is legitimately history. Fortunately, now he's out here on the West Coast where he belongs. with old
Say, I
Froton.
wouldn't be upset at all if I rooted for a college that had Caleb Williams and then he transferred because of the NIL. I wouldn't.
This is another issue. I've never seen Caleb Williams play because all his games start at 11 p.m.
It's the East Coast bias.
Yeah, right. It is East Coast bias. USC quarterback. Okay, if you say so.
It's fictitious and it was fake. So we made it up.
More fake news.
So Marvin Mims, guy we love to talk about. Who is the second guy you want to talk about today, Eric?
Another player that I've been dying to talk about that is a wideout that has seen his star rise a little bit in the postseason. Is somebody that I've had in college fantasy for the past 4 years, Jonathan Mingo. Mm-hmm. And the thing I like about Mingo is, there aren't a lot of human beings that are 6'2", 220 pounds that can move with the fluidity that you see
except for Denny can't.
Except for Denny, but it's funny when Denny was talking about how Bryce Young is just simply too small to be a quarterback. I thought that was a little projection based on his performance at the Fantasy Football Expo. Was that where that was coming from? Okay, back to Jonathan Mingo. Yeah, sorry, Denny.
I blame it on Pat.
It was a miscommunication. We didn't practice the route enough.
I need a receiver upgrade. Next year.
I was singled up on the outside.
I didn't cut the route off. I needed to cut the route off.
Froton, I think about the fact that I didn't throw it to you at least once a day. So.
It's okay, buddy. It's okay. Well, that's why next time, when you have your own personal Jonathan Mingo, that's what we're here to do. And I do feel like my skill set is similar to Mr. Mingo, 6'2", 220, like myself.
Close.
But, running a 4.46, which is a 94th percentile 40-yard dash, 22 bench reps. That's about as good as you're going to find for a wide receiver. And acceleration, the 1.52 10-yard split, which again, 94th percentile, that shows up on tape. Because what they did a lot with him is almost like a modified version of what they did with A.J. Brown, another Ole Miss wide receiver. You see some of the principles with Drake London. What USC and Graham Harrell would do with him is that simply he'd have that little quick hitch, and then he'd turn right away, and it's him face up with a smaller cornerback, and he just proceeds to take his head and shove him in the ground, take his lunch money, and go for a first down. And you saw a lot of that with Mingo because he's very shifty despite being 220. He had an 80th percentile 3-cone, which is not something you see from those guys. Huge hands. But his hands, he's a hands catcher. He's not letting the ball come into his body like a fellow big receiver this class, the most premier one, Quentin Johnson. You see a lot of his downfield reps where he's trying to win as opposed to going up and getting it. He's letting it come into his body. And that's something that is certainly like the anti-Mingo, because it's not only what he high points that I really like about Mingo, but you see him go down and make some really tough catches thanks to Jackson Dart's ill-equipped arm this season. He had to catch a lot of low passes that he probably should have been on the money, but you see him making those adjustments, and it's hard for those taller guys to get down there and really scrape the grass and make those catches. And you saw probably about a half dozen of them this season where he was able to make the under adjustment, not just high pointing. So I just think even though he isn't doing the most varied route tree, everything he did, different alignments, 55% outside, 35% inside, even 10% in the line. So you could kind of use his size on crackbacks. Just so much potential in a class that is stocked at the top with smaller wide receivers, the Downses, the Flowers. Mims deserves to be there. Hyatt's smaller. Obviously, JSN. Look at Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison is 50 pounds lighter than Jonathan Mingo, and Jonathan Mingo ran a faster 40. So
right.
At some level, it comes down to athleticism and the way they were used. And I think that you give the opportunity to Mingo, he could really make the most of it.
So Mingo looks the part of an alpha type receiver, like traditional alpha receiver in the NFL.
And he knows what an alpha looks like.
I do. I as one, I know I can recognize another. No, the relative athletic score is something we've cited a lot over the past few weeks. Our RAS, the kids are calling it. Jonathan Mingo scored a 9.86 on RAS out of a possible 10. That ranked 44th out of, get this guys, 44th out of 3,011 receivers measured in RAS from 1987 to 2023. So he is he is at the tippy top as far as athleticism goes. I would think that some team is going to be interested in that, right? I mean, come on.
Well, Eric, why didn't Mingo produce more? I mean, did he have injury problems? Did he have any suspension issues? Because it was 7 games, 8 games, 6 games for finally 13 last year. So, pardon me for just not knowing his history, but was it injury issues? What was it?
How dare you, Pat? But yeah, a lot of it does come with he was banged up a lot. And also, with Ole Miss, you got the Lane train rolling into town with Lane Kiffin. And they had a hierarchy. In 2021, Dontario Drummond ran the slot. And in that particular system, the slot receiver just got most of the work. And especially with Matt Corral delivering the ball, not known for his prodigious arm strength. He saw the field pretty well in the middle, and he would just tend to do that. That's where the hot reads were going, was that slot receiver. And it's like you're talking about a guy with Dontario Drummond who ran a 4.65 40, and it was a college slot receiver that had 1,000 yards. So where you have a freak like Mingo on the other side, also another outside wide receiver, Braylon Sanders, who I think ended up for a little while with the Dolphins, he ran like a sub 4.40. So they had the real speed on the outside, and you had the freak with Mingo, but the offense would funnel a lot of the passes to the middle. When Mingo got the opportunity and you see him catch the ball, if you watch the full breadth of him catching passes, you see the fluidity is there. It's just the role in the offense just wasn't suited to him. And then you throw on the fact that he was injured, like you said, for at least a third of the season for those first 3 years, and he never got the opportunity to develop. However, last year at the Combine, I talked to Braylon Sanders and Dontario Drummond and asked them, who's the next guy at Ole Miss? And both of them were very adamant saying, look, you guys wait until you see Jonathan Mingo. He was hurt this year, but he is coming. And when you hear alphas, talk about another guy like that, and Denny knows what it's like to be an alpha.
I know.
Absolutely. You hear him talk about a teammate like that, that's somebody to pay attention to, and their prediction came true.
See, Jonathan Mingo, too, 4 years of college experience, and he's not turning 22 until this week. So 22, that we're not saying he's like young for a prospect, but I mean, still a guy with a lot of experience who is not – a lot of times now, like if you're a 4-year guy, you're coming in, you're like 23, 24. A lot of times it seems like. Right. So
yeah, Will Levis style.
Yeah, exactly. So he's still projectable. Jonathan Mingo. What's your best guess for what round Jonathan Mingo goes in?
I think I'd love to see him go round 3 and slide into that. That would be nice just for Mr. Mingo. I think he deserves it. But I think realistically, you're looking at early day 4. I could not see him go. I think he's a solid 3rd, 4th rounder. I don't think he makes it to the 5th.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because teams will have the same questions I just did from like lightly perusing his sports reference. Like, curious, didn't command more targets. And we know that it's a loaded receiver group year in and year out down in Oxford. But, I thought target commanding was a skill, I was told.
Sure. Eric, do you think just real quick on a guy like Mingo, a bigger receiver, do you think the direction the NFL is going where it seems like every like hyper productive receiver is of a certain size, and by of a certain size I mean 5'10", 185 pounds,
podcaster size?
You're right. Do you think that he could be like outdated for the current NFL in any way?
Well, that is sort of the question, because as you see, and as I sort of alluded to, most of the guys who are the highest ranked guys in this class are the smaller receivers who excel at separating, in one form or another, be it acceleration, deceleration, craftiness. Josh Downs is another one who's certainly in that mix. So that sort of shows the value that teams are placing on the ability to simply separate and be able to create space. And then yak, it's the Tyreek Hill model. Everybody wants that form of a receiver now. They see it's like, oh my gosh, look at what he can do. He takes the top off. You get him in space, all that. So I think you definitely see a tilting towards that, because you never saw receivers that are 175 pounds or under be prioritized. It was pretty much the first guy was Devontae Smith, a couple years ago, and he succeeded. So it's almost like it's become okay to prioritize those smaller wideouts now, or not even smaller, but like thinner. But because of that, I think that you're missing some opportunities with the Cedric Tillmans, the the Mingos. Another guy like Michael Wilson is another guy that I really think is a solid sleeper who dominated upper echelon competition at the Senior Bowl. You saw him being able to get free and be able to get on top of other defenders, even though he's a 4.58 40 guy. You see his three cone, you see his breaks, you see savvy, Stanford kid and student of the game. And another thing, he barely played 4 games a year up until this season. Even this season, he played 4 games. He only played in 2019. Was the only time he played a double-digit season. So there's concerns about him with his body. Can he absorb that? So that's a concern. Another big receiver that I really loved. It's more like the 5th, 6th, 7th. Matt Landers from Arkansas, former Georgia commit, 4-star. Wasn't getting the playing time he wanted behind George Pickens, understandably. Goes over to Toledo. Has a 4.3 yards per route. He played like 5 games down the stretch in 2021. He dominated the MAC. Transfers over to Arkansas to take over for Treylon Burks, and he is that outside threat. He had a 30% broken tackle rate, even though his BMI isn't what you consider perfect at 6'4", 300 pounds, but he was there. 2.33 yards per route. Second highest passer rating when targeted in the country. Matt Landers.
Wow.
Okay. So you're talking about 61% downfield catch rate. He can high point. He has the athleticism. Again, you want to talk about his RAS score, sky high RAS score in the 95th percentile. So all the things that you're searching for that I'm talking about that Mingo has, look, you got Matt Landers as well, who's a 5th, 6th round guy. And I see him as an Isaiah Hodgins type guy. You give him a couple years in the practice squad. You let him grow into his body. Like you saw with Isaiah Hodgins, who was another big favorite of mine. He had to get out of Buffalo. He's with the Giants now, and he got that second contract. That's who I think Landers could be.
I'm in on Landers. You've convinced me.
You said, by the way, Eric, you said 300 pounds. I'm hoping you meant 200 pounds.
I meant 200. I meant 200 pounds, not a 3-tech. No,
6'4", 300 pounds as a receiver. I'd be down for that, to be honest.
I was that's interesting. I'm intrigued. What are we talking?
I think the rolling ball of butcher knives would be coming to life.
Right.
6'4", 300.
You thought Darnell Washington was a freak. Think again.
Eric, we got time for a few more players. Any running backs on day 2 or 3? And you can get to another receiver too if you want. But any running backs on day 2 or 3 that you were just loving?
Sure. I mean, I would say, I tried to clear up my receivers with that last little flurry, but I would say maybe Bryce Ford Wheaton too. You could throw in there as another big guy who's freaky that isn't Quentin Johnson. Who I think is a little overrated compared to the relative skill set of these other bigger wide receivers. I think you can get what QJ provides down the board. So I will leave that as my last soliloquy to the wideouts. Next, running backs. I got a guy that I was high. I mean, anybody who is a college guy, anybody who is into the scouting of freshmen knows Zach Evans, formerly of TCU, now graduated from Ole Miss. I'm not graduated, but left Ole Miss. Former 5-star, premium prospect, was committed to Georgia, had a tumultuous recruitment process, and kind of ended up at TCU after the spring. Is a very rare sort of thing. They gave him eligibility, and even though injuries kind of cropped up with him, he had a Liz Frank issue in 2021. This year with Ole Miss, Quinshon Judkins, who you will definitely be hearing about as the next Bijan Robinson type after Raheem Sanders next year. He kind of took over the short yardage and bell cow work for Ole Miss. But you look at Evans, you could probably get him in the 4th, 5th round at this point. In terms of his explosiveness, no other running back in this class is more explosive than Zach Evans on a per carry basis. 22% of his carries went for 10+ yards. 1 out of every 4. That's insane. You don't see that anywhere. He led the nation in that stat. Additionally, he runs strong. He runs, with power. 35% of his carries over the last 2 seasons went for first downs. Okay. Athletically, where I think he really took a ding in the early part in this evaluation process, he went on the combine and weighed in at 202 after he was listed around 215. Traditionally all throughout college. And you never know what these guys are going to weigh in. It's a fool's errand. But he weighed in at 202 at the combine and didn't run, which had people saying, all right, well, what's going on here? You know, he was listed at 215. He's 202. Little concern. He goes to his pro day, right? Shows up at 208. Now, that's in line with Tank Bigsby, who was 209. I want my running backs in the 210 at least to preferably 215 range. I think, you know, he's young. He's in that just sub 21 or right in the 21 years old range. He's a 3-year guy, Evans. I think you see him get to the 210, 215 range comfortably in his NFL career as he ages. He shows up at 208. He runs a 4.5 flat. Okay, really good mark, 89th percentile. Does a 6.893 cone, which is anything under 7 seconds is excellent. Does that. That's a 90th percentile mark. And he's got 10.25-inch hands. He's got big old hands that help with the receiving. I've seen him. He can catch. He can do the between the tackles work. He's instinctive. He follows his blocks. And just simply the eyeball test of me watching him for the last 3 years, this guy can do it. Okay, and if you're taking him in the 4th, 5th round, which is where I think he's going right now, I can't believe it because I have him, you know, as a top 10 RB, and you're seeing him in the RB 15. I think he's probably RB 7. I think that's a phenomenal value. And I went out and bought his Bowman U autograph, 1 of 5 red 2 days ago. It's for $64. Great deal. So money, meat, mouth.
Man, that's good stuff. You know, I just to kind of connect the dots for the listeners who may not like be eyeball deep in draft analysis. I do think that, you know, these kind of running backs that Eric's talking about are the kind of guys who you want to pay attention to where they land. I know we're talking about landing spot independent, but you want to make sure that, you know, hey, this guy's 3rd, 4th on the depth chart in Tampa or wherever it is, to make sure that, you know, you can scoop them up, whether you're doing best ball, whether you're doing early drafts, whatever, dynasty, to make sure that you know, like, it's like a good process. Like, okay, this guy blew it away athletically, great production. I'm going to take a flyer on him. It doesn't hurt, you know? So this is great information to sort of connect those dots, I think.
And yeah, Eric, you referenced he doesn't turn 22 until May 30th. So again, there's some guys who will play the rookie year at age 21, but he's going to be a young 22 as a rookie. The only thing you said you like his pass catching skills. Why didn't he catch more passes? I think career high of 12 last year for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean, system. TCU and Ole Miss don't throw to the running backs, but if you look on tape, you know, as watching him over the years, he has that. He can do it. You know, I've seen him catch passes, and, you know, the old you're running out and you have to do the twist. Oh, it's behind me. And he got plenty of poor passes from Max Duggan. That wasn't a problem. So if you look at the next thing I'm even going to talk about, Kendre Miller, who was at TCU, his backfield mate, it was the same situation with him. They just don't throw in their system to running backs, so you just didn't have the kind of tape with it. And then again with Evans, Quinshon Judkins is a true freshman, came out, and he is the 2025, you know, dominant primordial beast, Jack London style. So you're going to be hearing plenty of Quinshon Judkins, and he took a lot of that work, you know, from Evans, that every down work. So they kind of had, you know, like a 1A, 1B scenario. It just wasn't his role. So that's why I kind of wanted to accentuate his hands. So you say, look, he's got huge hands. You know, we heard all about like the last cycle of, oh my God, Treylon Burks' hands are so big, they have to get 4X hands. And they measured it, and he was sub 10 inches. It's like, okay, come on. If you have 10+ inch hands, he does. I give it a little bump in the receiving game, since we didn't get to see it much, but you know, that's how it goes.
And we've learned too, the college receiving numbers don't necessarily mean anything for a lot of these guys. Because like you said, so much of it is system based, and so much of it is too, they could be a good pass catcher, but they're playing at like a blue chip school that has 3 or 4 or 5-star running backs, and they just don't get the opportunity to do it. So yeah, the numbers can very much lie when it comes to collegiate running back receptions. So Kendre Miller, TCU, the next guy you want to talk about?
Kendre Miller, TCU will go the Big 12 here. His former backfield mate, 5'11", 215. He didn't get a chance to test because he got hurt late in the season, which really hurt TCU against Georgia because they had to start a backup running back in a.
You mean that scrimmage?
That scrimmage you got.
Where a D1 team played an FCS team.
The semifinals were the real games. Those two were great.
They were amazing.
I can't speak to the conference, the champ. Anyways, Kendre Miller in 2021, like a big reason why Zach Evans transferred out is because he just couldn't shake Miller. In terms of the per carry basis, again, it was a 1A and 1B scenario. So with him, 181 PFF elusiveness rating in 2021. That's the second highest mark in the entire country. And that's something that's really important because breaking tackles, deceptiveness, those are traits that simply, they translate extremely well to the next level. And another thing that really does as well, yards after contact. And, Miller led the entire country in 2021 in YAC on a per carry basis. So it's 5'11", 215, jacked. So he's not just avoiding tackles, he is breaking tackles. Yeah. And that's another, important distinction because the little guys will avoid them. He did a little bit of both. Now, when it comes to his ability between the tackles, which is really what his role is going to be at the next level, I don't think he has the 3-down upside you see of Evans, but he's excellent. Like, he's a home run threat. Okay. In terms of his ability to run is another important mark. 18 rushes of 20+ yards each in the past 2 seasons. Okay. That's a top 10 mark FBS wise. Between short yardage, 11 touchdowns on 30 red zone carries. That's the 5th best rate in the country, as well as a 1 touchdown per 12 carry average, best mark in the entire country over the last 2 years. So his productivity, his ability to get the tough yards and grind, it's there. He doesn't pass block well. Very poor. He definitely shows up on tape. 3rd down ability, probably not so much. Didn't really do much again in the passing game. I don't know. Could he be Kenneth Walker? And it's just a case of having not done it? Yes. But I do think he's a little, his hips aren't as fluid as Evans. Could be an issue into a 2-down situation. But we're looking at a potential, probably being in the 5th round here, 4th, 5th round for Miller, maybe even slide up into the 3rd, kind of like you saw Tyrion Davis-Price do last year, if somebody falls in love with him.
Oh, so it could be the guy that Channy drafts 2 rounds too early.
That's his thing. It's the Elijah Mitchell and then Tyrion Davis-Price. It is a thing now.
I want to say, folks, if you didn't know, Eric Froton was on Elijah Mitchell before it was cool to be on Elijah Mitchell. And I know now Mitchell's sharing the backfield with CMC or whatever. I get it. But he had that breakout as a rookie. And Froton, he was on his rooftop. Please listen to me about Mitchell.
You may think that's a metaphor. It's not. That's Eric.
No, we actually, I have an 11-minute video of him on his roof and
doing karaoke.
Yeah,
about this very subject. Did a whole song to it. Eric.
No, on the spot, it was honestly shockingly good for being made up on the spot.
What I'm saying is when Froton talks about late round running backs, you're going to want to listen.
And Kendre Miller, so we talk about, they're going to be a young 22. Kendre Miller doesn't turn 21 until June. So really, really important. A lot of times in Dynasty, that's one less year of tread that's been taken off their tires. We know that just the younger, the more projectable you are. Important fact of Kendre Miller. Eric, we're almost out of time. Do you want to empty the notebook on any other running back names you have?
Yeah, sure. I'll dump it out. Rashawn Johnson is a guy who's really come up a little bit. He was behind Bijan Robinson.
Connor Rogers talked about Rashawn last Thursday, so great minds thinking alike here.
As he should be. Former quarterback. Tom Herman brings him in, says, hey, we're going to give you a shot at quarterback, but hey, you could be a good running back. Turns out that's the second time Tom Herman's done that. He also did that with Jaquindon Jackson, who is a Utah running back. He transferred unlike Rashawn Johnson. And you will be hearing about him next year. He's taken over that running back room. So led the entire nation again this year. Last year it was Kendre Miller. This year, Rashawn Johnson on a per carry basis. Broken tackle rate. He led the country in broken tackle rate. 45% of his carries, he's breaking a tackle. That is, Bijan Robinson, obviously, and Rashawn Johnson. Good luck tackling those guys in Texas. Certainly worth looking at. Again, another big back in a class of smaller backs at the top. Evan Hull, Northwestern, sub 4.5 40. Incredible. Okay, well, I know I've been going for the 2-down plotters. Evan Hull, 210 pounds, but still elite pass catching back. Caught over 50 passes last year for Northwestern. Was the entire offense for Northwestern. If it weren't for Peter Skoronsky, the poor guy, I don't know how he would have found a running lane, but just did everything, can go between the tackles, is a great athlete in the 90th percentile, and can catch passes. And lastly, deep cut, Shrine Bowl invitee, Deneric Prince. There is nothing generic about Deneric's personal skill set when it comes to his athleticism. Sub 4.5 40, guys at 216 pounds. You saw him catching passes, looking very fluid and smooth at the Shrine Bowl. Was a group of 5 running back for Tulsa that really used him often. Was a true between the tackles bell cow who has the athleticism, again, plus 90th percentile, I want to say 95th percentile athlete. You get him in the 6th, 7th round. You throw him at the end of your dynasty roster, you could do a hell of a lot worse.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, just really, really, really good stuff. Because, again, these are the kind of names that will make the difference in dynasty leagues because everyone's going to have the same information on the blue chip first-round guys. And, in a year where the receiver class, the first-round receiver class, as Eric alluded to, isn't looking very big, maybe only 3 or 4 first-round receivers. Got to know the down ballot names more. Always need to know the down ballot names of running backs since running backs just don't go early anymore. So really, really, really good stuff. Eric, I know you've got good stuff all over the site. What do you have up on the site right now?
Well, I'll be dropping, frankly, several different defensive columns coming. I'll have linebackers. I'll have interior offensive line. I'll have cornerbacks and safeties in terms of my top 10 write-ups for all those players and their entire rankings. I'll have a top 300 coming out next week right before the draft. And myself, Kyle Dvorak, and the aforementioned Connor Rogers will be doing a 3-man weave mock draft this week to be dropped next week. So there is no shortage of activity on my end until the draft is over.
Oh, and that's why you don't sleep.
Right.
Eric does not sleep.
You guys,
I have to say though that between Froton, Kyle's work, Connor Rogers, others on the site, we have a ton of. I'm not just being a company guy. I go to our site specifically to brush up on this stuff because there's so much good information. So I recommend everybody go do the same.
No, seriously, it's amazing stuff. Check it out. Thank you so much to Eric for coming by and dropping some knowledge on us. For Denny Carter, for Eric Froton, I am Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We will be back later this week with Kyle Dvorak and Danny Kelly.